Welcome to the Autocratic Gambit, a 20-episode series exposing Donald Trump's systematic attempt to transform America into an authoritarian state. I'm your host, and over the next weeks, we'll detail the blueprint for autocracy, from Schedule F to Project 2025, revealing how Trump and his allies plotted to eliminate democratic institutions and consolidate power. This is Episode 1, the first cut, Trump's Unitary Executive Theory. The foundation of Trump's autocratic vision rests on a dangerous legal theory, the Unitary Executive Doctrine. This theory claims that the president has absolute, unchecked power over the entire executive branch. No Congress, no courts, no limits. Now, this isn't a new legal theory. Constitutional scholars have debated the scope of executive power for decades. Some argue for a strong presidency, others advocate for congressional oversight, but Trump didn't engage in scholarly debate. He weaponized this theory in ways no president before him dared. He turned a constitutional interpretation into an operational weapon for dismantling democracy. Let me be clear about what the Unitary Executive Doctrine actually claims. At its core, it argues that the president has complete control over the executive branch, that all executive power flows from the president, that Congress cannot create independent agencies or officials who operate outside presidential control. In its most extreme form, the version Trump embraced, it claims the president can fire any executive official for any reason at any time, that the president can override congressional statutes, that the president can ignore judicial rulings, that the president is essentially above the law. In 2019, Trump's lawyers made this argument explicit. They appeared before federal courts and argued that the president has absolute authority to fire the FBI Director, the Attorney General, and any other executive official at will. No cause required, no explanation necessary, no accountability whatsoever. They argued that the president could override Congress, ignore subpoenas, and act with complete impunity. One of Trump's lawyers even argued that the president could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and couldn't be investigated while in office. That's not hyperbole, that's what they actually argued in court. The Constitution says otherwise. The framers deliberately created a system of checks and balances. They had just fought a war against a king. They understood the dangers of concentrated power, so they divided power. Congress appropriates funds, the Senate confirms appointees. Courts enforce the law. The president executes the law, but within constitutional limits. This system isn't perfect, but it's designed to prevent any one person from accumulating too much power. Trump's unitary executive theory would have eliminated all of this. If Trump's interpretation had prevailed, the president would have become a king, not a president bound by law, a king answerable to no one. This is how autocracies begin. Not with a military coup, not with tanks in the streets, not with a dramatic seizure of power. They begin with a legal theory, with a reinterpretation of the Constitution, with a claim that one man stands above the law. They begin with small steps, a firing here, an ignored subpoena there, a refusal to comply with oversight. Each step seems survivable. Each violation seems like a political dispute, not a constitutional crisis. But together, they represent the systematic dismantling of democratic safeguards. And Trump didn't stop with theory. He acted on it. Let's look at the evidence. May 9, 2017. Trump fires FBI Director James Comey. Comey was investigating Russian interference in the 2016 election and potential connections to the Trump campaign. Trump claimed he had absolute authority to fire the FBI director for any reason, or no reason at all. He told NBC News, "When I decided to just do it, I said to myself, this Russia thing with Trump and Russia is a made-up story." He admitted on national television that he fired the FBI director to obstruct an investigation into himself. That's not executive power, that's obstruction of justice. But Trump didn't stop there. He appointed a loyalist as acting FBI director. He pressured the Justice Department to end the Russia investigation. He attacked the special counsel. He dangled pardons to witnesses. This is the Unitary Executive Doctrine in action. The president asserting absolute control over law enforcement to protect himself. Then there's Attorney General Jeff Sessions. Sessions recused himself from the Russia investigation because he had been involved in the Trump campaign. That's what the law requires. That's what ethics demands. Trump was furious. He publicly attacked Sessions for months. He called him weak. He said Sessions had betrayed him. In November 2018, Trump fired Sessions and appointed William Barr as Attorney General. Barr wasn't the nation's lawyer. He was Trump's personal defense attorney. Barr misrepresented the Mueller report before releasing it. He intervened in cases involving Trump's associates. He tried to drop charges against Michael Flynn, Trump's former national security advisor, even after Flynn had pleaded guilty twice. Barr turned the Justice Department into Trump's personal legal defense team. This is what happens when a president believes he has absolute power over the executive branch. But it gets worse. Trump's lawyers argued that he could declassify any document simply by thinking about it. No process, no documentation, no oversight, just a mental act. And suddenly, the nation's most sensitive secrets would no longer be classified. This wasn't a serious legal argument, it was an absurdity designed to place the president above the law. Trump also claimed he could pardon anyone for any reason, including himself. Think about that for a moment. A president who can pardon himself is a president who can commit any crime without consequence. Murder, treason, bribery, obstruction of justice. It wouldn't matter, he could simply pardon himself and walk away. That's not a president, that's a king, that's a dictator. Trump also directed his administration to ignore congressional subpoenas. Congressional oversight is a fundamental check on executive power. Congress has the constitutional authority to investigate the executive branch, to demand documents, to compel testimony. Trump claimed absolute immunity from congressional oversight. He instructed his officials to refuse to comply with subpoenas. He sued to block Congress from obtaining his financial records. This wasn't a legal dispute, this was a direct assault on the separation of powers. And then there's Trump's repeated attempts to weaponize the Justice Department against his political enemies. He pressured the Justice Department to investigate Hillary Clinton, James Comey, and other political opponents. He demanded loyalty from law enforcement officials. He wanted the Justice Department to function as his personal security force. The Justice Department is supposed to enforce the law impartially. It's not supposed to serve the president's political interests. But under Trump's unitary executive theory, the Justice Department exists solely to serve the president. This is the Unitary Executive Doctrine as a weapon, not a constitutional theory, not a legal argument, a weapon to consolidate power, eliminate oversight, and place one man above the law, and it worked. For 4 years, Trump acted with near total impunity. He fired inspectors general who investigated him. Michael Atkinson, the Intelligence Community Inspector General, who handled the Ukraine whistleblower complaint. Glenn Fine, who was supposed to oversee coronavirus relief spending. Christy Grimm, who reported on hospital shortages during the pandemic. Each firing sent a clear message: investigate the president, lose your job. He removed officials who refused to bend the law to his will. Sally Yates, who refused to defend the Muslim ban. Preet Bharara, the U.S. attorney investigating Trump associates. Alexander Vindman, the National Security Council official who testified about the Ukraine pressure campaign. Loyalty to Trump mattered more than loyalty to the Constitution. The courts occasionally pushed back. But Trump's judges, over 200 federal judges appointed by Trump, including 3 Supreme Court justices, often sided with his expansive claims of executive power. And when courts ruled against him, Trump simply ignored the rulings or found ways around them. He ignored court orders on the census. He defied court rulings on asylum policy. He violated court orders on family separation. If the president can ignore court rulings, the judiciary ceases to function as a check on executive power. This is how democracies die. Not with a coup, not with violence, not with a sudden, dramatic collapse. They die slowly, through legal reinterpretation, through institutional erosion, through the systematic dismantling of checks and balances. They die when a leader claims he is above the law, when he fires officials who uphold the law, when he ignores courts, when he weaponizes law enforcement, when he demands personal loyalty over constitutional duty. Each act individually seems survivable, but together, they represent the death of democracy. And Trump didn't stop after his first term. He learned from his mistakes, he identified what worked and what didn't. He refined his strategy. He prepared for a second term with more sophisticated plans, more loyal personnel, and more comprehensive strategies for consolidating power. The lessons from Trump's first term crystallized into concrete plans. Project 2025, a 900-page blueprint for remaking the federal government. Schedule F, a plan to reclassify tens of thousands of career civil servants as political appointees, making them fireable at will. These aren't theoretical proposals, they're operational plans. They're the machinery for implementing the Unitary Executive Doctrine at scale. But first, you have to understand the foundation. The Unitary Executive Doctrine is the legal justification for everything that follows. It's the theory that allows Schedule F to exist. It's the argument that permits Project 2025. It's the claim that makes one man a king. And Trump believes it completely. Absolutely. This isn't political posturing. This isn't negotiating tactics. Trump genuinely believes he should have absolute power over the executive branch, free from oversight, free from accountability, free from the law. That belief drives his actions. It shapes his appointments. It defines his plans for future power. And if he returns to office, he will act on it again. The Autocratic Gambit. Episode 1, The First Cut. We've examined the foundation of Trump's autocratic vision, the Unitary Executive Doctrine. We've seen how he weaponized it to fire officials, ignore oversight, and consolidate power. We've seen how he used it to place himself above the law. This is just the beginning. Next episode, the Pence card. How Trump pressured Vice President Mike Pence to overturn the 2020 election. How he turned a mob loose on his own vice president when Pence refused to violate the Constitution. The pressure campaign, the threats, the violence, the attempted coup. Like, share, and ring the bell to be notified of future videos. Presented by Word Up Media Network. Unfiltered, unforgiving, unapologetic.